Hey everyone, welcome back to TK's Tech Talk. I'm TK and this is TTKK, or better known as the Trusty Kitchen Knife. And we are back in the kitchen for another unboxing video. Today I'm going to be taking a look at this EVGA 750BQ bronze power supply. This is a semi-modular power supply by EVGA. So let's get this plastic wrapper off first, and then we'll have a look around the box. Otherwise you're going to get too many reflections while I'm trying to show you around the box. So let's get rid of all that shiny packaging. So while I do that, just want to mention I bought this about a month ago and I haven't had a chance to open it up yet. Bought it, I think it was during one of the deals on Amazon. It was on for like £45 roughly. So I bought it in the UAE and paid around £45, which is the same price as it was in the UK to have it shipped over all the way from the UK as well. So let's take a quick look around the box. Let me just zoom out just a little bit so we can see the box properly. So let's have a quick look around the box. Just got some 750BQ labeling there all around the box, nothing on this side, and just a logo on the bottom. On the back we have some power ratings. So if I just zoom in here for a second, hopefully you can see this. So this is telling us what the different rails, like the 3.3 volt rail, the 5 volt rail, and the 12 volt rail, what is the maximum power. So we can have 150 on the 3.3 and 5 volt combined, or we can have 744 volts over 62 amps on the 12 volt rail, and that would get us 744, which is around 750 watts. So is it okay to buy a bronze power supply? Yes, it's fine. It just means that if you have a bronze power supply, you'd use more electricity to obtain the same amount of power. It doesn't mean the components are necessarily worse. Now, there are a couple of ratings. Obviously, we've got this, the 80 plus rating, which gives us the efficiency of the power supply. And then there are other ratings as well, which you can look out for, like things like cybernetics, which this power supply is not certified for cybernetics. But anyway, it's something you can check on the cybernetics website to see if the power supply you're buying is also tested for lots of other things, right? So inside the box, looks like a fairly standard unboxing experience, I guess, for a power supply. And we have the manual, which states that there is a 850, a 750, and a 650 watt version. Not going to bother looking inside that for now. Then we have lots of cables here. As usual, these cables are those very pretty looking, being sarcastic of course. Oh, but they do have nice pull tabs on the Molex connectors and things like that. Maybe on the SATA power as well. Let's just try and have a look at that. No, it's on the SATA, but that's fine. At least the Molex have these nice things, and they just feel like very standard power supply cables. Nothing exciting, especially for a bronze rated power supply. So we seem to have some sort of extender, I believe. Didn't expect that. And we have a UK power lead. And then we have a couple of cable ties, some foam, and a very basic packaging for the power supply. So now this power supply does actually feel quite heavy. Not sure if weight means better quality, but we'll just assume that for now. So I'm not going to be doing any like real tests or anything right now. I don't know how to perform the test for this, but the main idea of this is to show you what you're getting for your money if you decide to buy something like this power supply or this particular BQ model, which is semi-modular. Now on the side here we've got all the ratings. It's actually got this nice finish to it. It looks quite nice. The fan is not your typical design fan. That actually looks quite nice as well. Got the EVGA logo there. There's some plastic on there, I think there is. And then we've got all of the connectors here on the side. So we've got peripheral 1 and 2. I'm assuming that's for some, like whatever you're going to be connecting to it, like SATA, for example. They all look the same. So I'm assuming these are labeled SATA, these are labeled peripheral, so that would be like your Molex connectors. VGA 2 and 3, because 1 is obviously on the cable. We'll have a look at those in a moment. And then we've got CPU 2. So that's it really. Don't try and put this on a 4090. There's not enough power connectors, and I'm sure that this 750 watt probably won't be enough, considering it does pull like 450 watts. So let's just open this. Well, actually I won't bother opening up. It's got a nice braided cable. Now what I like about this semi-modular design is that because if you're going to be using a basic graphics card with one 8-pin power, right, and if you're going to be using a motherboard like an RTX board or something like that, you will have only these cables. This is it. Now obviously the problem with this is you can't control the length, and they're quite long cables for obvious reasons, because you might be using a big case or a small case. And it looks like they're quite well put together. It's nicely braided. You don't get this cheap look of the normal cables, right? So if you're going to have your motherboard 24-pin, then you've got your PCIe Express 8-pin or 6-pin for your graphics card, and then you have a 4 or 8-pin for the CPU. So if you're going to have a board which only has one 4-pin, which is very rare nowadays, then that would be the one you use, or you put them together and you have one 8-pin. So most RTX boards, you know, sometimes have just a 4-pin connector. So this is fine for your RTX board. And what that means is, without worrying about all of this, you just got these 3 cables to attach. And of course there is one maybe slightly annoying thing that you have the second one to deal with, but at least if you do have a graphics card which has a 8-pin and a 6-pin, because if you look carefully here, that's just a 6-pin. It's an 8-pin and a 6-pin. So some graphics cards you get with the 8-pin and 6-pin, there's quite a lot of them I guess on the market, and you can plug this one in and you're done, right? You don't need to worry about connecting any of these if you're not going to be using SATA drives or anything like that. If you want a nice ITX build, if it supports a full ATX power supply, or if you want an MATX build, a smaller build, not a full-size build, and you don't want so many power supply cables to manage, and looks okay, like they're not the best quality in the world, but at least they're braided and they look nice. Wouldn't say it's proper braid, but anyway, they feel plastic, but the bottom line is it does look good. So how good is this power supply going to be? I don't really know. I'm going to try and test it and see how well it performs, and see if I can work out some metrics. And one more thing I forgot to point out, it does have this power switch as well. So let me connect this up to my computer. We'll talk about the specs, try and do some power draw tests and see how we get on. So I'm actually doing this stress test way after using this power supply for a while now. I started the original video recording, I had a 12900K. The CPU has now been upgraded to a 13900K, and it might be a good time to see how this power supply fares under load. Now, I'm not going to be able to do any scientific tests or any in-depth tests, but there is something that I can show you about what happens to this power supply under load. And it's not a bad thing, by the way. It seems to run this RTX 3090 and 13900K without any problems, to be honest, in most circumstances. So let's try, and we're going to use Furmark to stress the GPU. So let's start that test up. So we're just trying to basically use as much of this GPU as possible, and we're going to run Cinebench at the same time. Apologies if the fans ramp up. I can't remember if I have been playing with the fan curve, so you might hear them at some point. So if we now go back here, we can see that we did start at 12.1 volts or something like that. Let's just zoom in a bit so you can see that. Right, it's a bit blurry I think, but anyway, you can just about see now that we are at 11.9 I think it is that right? 11.9 and a minimum of 11.8. Now this seems to be a pretty normal thing, as I found with testing another power supply. I had another power supply, the 850 watt Cougar power supply, the BXM 850, and it seems that under load, and you can see we are drawing 280, 290 watts from the CPU and also 350 watts from the GPU. So we're pulling almost 650 watts. That's not even accounting for any drives or anything else that is attached to the PC, and I think that's negligible anyway. But we can see it's more or less stuck to this 11.8 volts, 88 volts, and that's fine because power supplies are built with the plus minus 5% load, so it can go down as far as 5% below. So we're within that 5% threshold, and as you can see, it's running under full load with no issues. So I guess for a budget, I mean, like I said, I think I paid around £45 for this during, was it the Prime Day deal or something? I can't remember now. I think it was back in July or something. And I've been using the power supply for a few months, for at least 5 weeks, I think now, since I started recording this. I think it's about 5 weeks. And it seems to be working absolutely fine. We've hit 354 and 290. So that's just shy of 650 watts. Now this is a 750 watt power supply, and this goes to show that it's very possible that you will be able to use this sort of power supply with a i9 or i7 very easily with the 3090. Now I'm not sure what that story is going to be like with the 4090, so I'm not sure if I'd recommend a 750 watt CPU, at least with the i9. With the 4090 though, I'm sure you could probably get away with a 12700K, but that's about it. So we've been running for a few minutes now. How long have we been running? For 3 minutes. It's not exactly a stress test at 3 minutes, but I just wanted to show you that it does. Oh, we've even hit 11.712. How about I let this run for the full 10 minutes of the Cinebench run, and let's see if it goes any more below that. Okay, so we're just at the last few seconds of that Cinebench run. We still haven't gone below 11.712 volts. We're still sitting at around 300 watts on the i9, and we're sitting at around 350 watts. So we're very close to that 650 watt mark. And just an interesting point to note here is even the CPU cores in terms of temperature did not go above 91 degrees. That's under full load. And I got a score of, let me try and show this to you, of, oopsie daisy, what am I doing? 40,016, whilst the graphics card is under a torture test. That is pretty insane. So that's about it for this power supply test. You know, I hope you found this useful. You can see that we don't need amazingly massive power supply. I'm not sure how long it will last like this under this sort of load, but we can see that we were able to maintain that up to 11.7 volts, which is within the 5% variance, I believe, if my calculations are correct. And if you have any questions about this power supply or any other power supplies, like I said, there's not a scientific test. It's just something basic that everyone can do with HWMonitor, Furmark and Cinebench to see how their power supply holds up. Obviously, a much longer duration would be a more logical thing to do. Either way, I hope you found this useful. Please feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.